Good afternoon. I'm Scott Medberry, Product Manager at Guidewire, responsible for PolicyCenter. I'm joined today by my colleagues Julie Kennedy and Larry Selig. It's great to see you here all live and in person. It's been a long time. It's great to see you here all. We appreciate your attendance and your participation. Okay. You've seen this slide several times before. Our legal counsel likes us displaying it.
Click.
Basically, what it says in the end is,
You click.
oh, there we go.
we go.
There's our safe harbor that everybody knows and loves. Okay? So basically what this says is, hey, we're going to be talking about future product direction. While we believe it to be accurate, product direction and feature functionality is subject to change without notice, so please don't hold us to what we say. We think it's accurate, but we're not, things change, right? Okay. Agenda. Yes, the agenda slide came up. Cool. In today's session, we want to take a broad perspective of what's new in PolicyCenter Cloud. But we also want to add to it by talking about how PolicyCenter, not only PolicyCenter itself, but what is new in creating and updating insurance products, how you can better connect PolicyCenter to the ecosystem around it, what is new in digital experiences and analytics. During the session, we'll also provide 3 quick video demos illustrating some new functionality in Dobson. Following that, we'll briefly cover Guidewire's early access program, as well as give you a sneak peek of what we're thinking about in Elysian and beyond, our next release. Then at the end, as time permits, we'll open it up for Q&A at the microphone up here with social distancing, et cetera. Okay, that's the agenda. First, let's go over how we're providing new mechanisms to easily integrate PolicyCenter into your ecosystem, as well as discuss how Guidewire is leveraging cloud-native technologies to provide additional scalability and performance. PolicyCenter is integrated with about 100 systems in a typical deployment, and their integrations can be time-consuming, costly, and inflexible. Integration Gateway is a new low-code, early access cloud service that connects, secures, routes, and orchestrates between PolicyCenter and third-party services leveraging an open-source framework such as Apache Camel. Integration developers use the Integration Gateway to quickly build integration apps on the cloud by isolating integration logic from the PolicyCenter application logic, and then using Camel EIP components and Integration Gateway utility libraries to build simple and complex message flows. This allows evolving application integrations independent of the PolicyCenter lifecycle. This ability to evolve your integration apps independently increases agility, speeds up development, and reduces cost and risk. It also increases integration developer productivity by leveraging low-code Camel DSL and Integration Gateway utilities. And it provides cloud scalability and observability at an integration app level of granularity. Many integrations are event-based, and we have another new capability that helps with those integrations called app events. Almost always, downstream systems need to be notified when a business event occurs in PolicyCenter. This allows the downstream systems to keep its data in sync and to trigger automated actions. Traditionally, each of these integrations used event messaging, which required hundreds of lines of Gosu code for the event feed. This all needed to be implemented, tested, maintained, and upgraded, which can be time-consuming. With application events, integration developers create a series of subscriptions, essentially, that allow downstream systems to subscribe to a feed of business events, receive policy information in near real time without coding. What this does is that it reduces the effort to implement, upgrade, and maintain outbound integrations from PolicyCenter Cloud using a no-code approach. And since applications are built using cloud-native technologies, it provides additional performance and scalability benefits. Now we can go to the next slide. One question we all get asked or ask ourselves in our lives is, how can we do more or go faster? This is also the case in insurance when it comes time to quote a policy for new business as well as for a change or renewal. At Guidewire, we also want to do more and go faster with quoting as well. I would like to take the next couple of minutes to briefly describe what we're doing and planning in this area. If you look at the quoting process at a high level, we essentially sequentially run through a series of rules covering availability. For example, is this cover offered for this customer and risk? Product model rules. Do you have the necessary information on the policy? Have you met minimum and maximum thresholds, et cetera? Validation rules. Does this policy make sense? For example, are all the coverage dates within the policy term? Underwriting rules, is this risk acceptable, or do you need a seasoned veteran to evaluate the risk? And of course, rate the policy as well. These are all necessary steps, and you really have to do all of them for a bindable quote. But going back to the original question, can we do more or go faster? We think so, and let me explain. What if we could re-envision the quoting process, not as a sequential step-by-step approach, but instead look at it as a race to the finish, where all the different rules, calculations are run at the same time, along with the rating step. Along with that, what if we utilized cloud-native technologies for each major quoting step to provide services with inherent performance, robustness, and scalability? In such a scheme, there would be a central quoting service to orchestrate these various steps, as well as dedicated services for each step. For the happy path case, where policy met all the rule conditions, this would result in a faster, more scalable response. For cases where the conditions were not met, the quote service would work, and PolicyCenter would work as before, just more quickly, responding back with the information about the rules being violated. That is what Guidewire is enabling. Here's where we're at right now. The current process is not going away. It will continue to be available for those wishing to use it. But we're starting to enable that future state. We have a first version of a quoting service, a validation rules service, a rating service, and we have plans to provide the other services for availability, product model, and underwriting. Moving to this architecture also opens up future value-add opportunities. A couple of examples, single service calling. Think, for example, of an underwriting call at a specified point in the submission process to understand if that policy might be amenable to straight-through processing. Or calling rating at multiple points to get that price point updated as you go through the submission process. Another example would be scalable quote variants. You know, a lot of people are used to the idea of maybe sending 3 different prices out, a good, better, best. What happens if you could increase that number of options for your customer in that same time frame? With that as a backdrop, let's discuss what's available in Dobson. We first introduced validation rules service in Cortina and is now available early access in Dobson with a newly included rule testing feature. In summary, it provides useful but powerful rules editor where business, IT, and analysts can create and update validation rules in a no-code environment. These rules are then executed in a policy quote time with the results presented to the user in the normal manner. This enables a collaborative environment between stakeholders creating and updating validation rules. In addition, since rule creation execution is external to PolicyCenter, they can be changed without system downtime. In Dobson, we're also introducing as an early access feature a rating runtime service. We have observed that rating can take about 40% of the overall quote time, depending on policy size and rating complexity. What we have done in Dobson is to enhance rating management, the existing rating tool we have, to provide specific rate books that can be used by the new rating service to calculate premiums during quoting. With this service, especially when we can execute it multiple rule services in parallel with rating, for larger, more complex policies, we expect to see significant end-user quote performance benefits. While we have great expectations for this service over time, in this first release, we're able to handle a subset of the use cases that can be defined in current rating management. To enable execution of this rate books in the rating service, we have enhanced the user interface in rating management to be able to define risk object iteration and specify rate routine execution order. I've got a short demo I'd like to show you that illustrates what's available in the rating runtime service.
Service works, including how to use looping to iterate through risk object and rate flow to declare the rate routine order of execution. I'm going to use the Go commercial property line. At a high level, you have the line level attributes. You also have location and building as sub-risk objects, as well as CP blanket and supplemental coverages. I've created an initial rate book in PolicyCenter in the rating engine, and in that rate book, we've got no included rate tables and 2 rate routines, one for the blanket policy and one for a location and building. So let's drill into the location and building part, where I've got a start of a rate routine that I'm going to add to it here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a space here so that we can create a new variable, a loop, and what we're going to do is we're going to loop across the locations. And to do that, we're going to select the parameter, we're going to go with the line level, and we're going to want to loop across all the locations within that line. And now within there, let's set up a couple of rows to monitor what we're doing there. And so to do that, we're going to use one of the variables that's already pre-set up, and we're going to assign that variable to its current value. And then we're going to increment that or add to that, in this case, 1,000. So every time we hit a location, we're going to add 1,000 to the premium value. And now also in this, we're going to enter a second embedded loop. And this embedded loop, we're going to hit the loop function again. And this is going to loop across all the buildings within a location. And to do that, we want to hit the iterator that we've already got, location, and then with that, we're going to want to get each of the buildings on there. So we'll set that up. And then let's do insert a couple rows here just like before. And in these, we're going to again use that same variable, the temp rate. We're going to assign it to its prior value. And we're also going to do another increment here, and we're going to add to that just a value of 1. So with this rate routine then, for every building, we're going to add 1 to the premium. Every location, we're going to add 1,000. So let's update this and go back to our rate book. And within there, as I said, we didn't have any rate tables, but let's edit this to add a new type of rate table called flowchart. And flowchart's how we're going to control the order of execution of the rate routine. So let's add that and update. And now let's edit this, and we're going to want to add 1 row for each of the rate routines we have. And so group number is the first ordering column, sequence number is the second ordering column. So you order first by group number and then sequence number to understand the order of execution here. In this case, it's a pretty simple set of rate routines, so we're going to use the same group number, and we're just going to use a sequence number to control the order of execution. And so for the first one, let's set up the blanket to execute first. And let's take the location building one and execute that second. And we want to be able to start at the right point on the policy graph, and that entity reference for that is going to be the line level value. So we get that set up, update that, and go up to there. Now at this point, the rate book is ready to go, so we'll promote that to stage so it can be executed. The new thing is we're going to be able to send this to a workset, and workset's what it's going to do is send this rate book out to the rating service so that it's available for execution in the rating service. So let's do that right now. It's sending it out there, and in just a second here, it should come back and say, yep, it's ready to go. So let's go to a policy that I've already created. And here's the policy here. Let's go into it a little more detail and look at the locations on here. And so I've set up 3 locations on this, an initial headquarters location with 1 building, a warehouse location with 2 buildings, and a shops area with 3 buildings. So 6 buildings in total, 3 locations in total. So the expectation here is that when we quote this, we'll have 3 locations times 1,000 is 3,000, and 6 buildings times 1 is 6. So 3,006 should be the premium. Let's quote this. And 3,006. So you can see that the rate routine was used and operated correctly on this policy.
And we'll hand it over to Larry.
Thanks, Scott. I'm going to briefly tell you about submission intake. Submission intake is a new capability that is available for early access customers in our Dobson release. If you're interested in this topic after you see my teaser today, I'll have a more in-depth session tomorrow afternoon at this time, so please feel free to join me for that. So what is submission intake? Just briefly, if you look to the upper right-hand side of this slide, you'll notice submission intake, it's a new microservice And it's also a new micro front end. So you heard Diego talk about micro apps or micro front ends today, and that's what submission intake is. It's one of these embeddable Jutro-based applications. We're choosing for the Dobson release to embed it inside of PolicyCenter, where, as you'll see in a few minutes when I give you a brief demo, it's completely transformed the process of creating new submissions in PolicyCenter. It also takes advantage of AppReader, which is an existing, long-standing, best-of-breed OCR-based service that we have had as a Guidewire asset in production since 2010. So it's a cloud-based service, like I said, embeddable app. It intakes Accord documents, and it can create PolicyCenter submissions in a very efficient and intuitive way without rekeying data. The benefits are that it's efficient and accurate for doing submission creation. This is especially applicable to middle market commercial business and above, where we can avoid a lot of rekeying by taking advantage of this intake capability. It's also very easy to enable. It's a cloud-based service, it's always on, and we've done a lot of things to make it easier than ever to just turn it on and integrate it to your APD-based product definition in PolicyCenter. And lastly, one of the big benefits is that it's included with PolicyCenter Cloud. And so with that, I'm going to give you a brief demo.
Today we're going to demonstrate just how easy it is to create a new submission in PolicyCenter from an Accord document using the new early access submission intake capability of PolicyCenter. So when submission intake is enabled in PolicyCenter, you'll see this new uploaded Accord documents area on your desktop. In this area, you can find all of the Accord documents that are in the process of being reviewed or in the process of being uploaded, and you'll also see an area where you can initiate new uploads. Creating a new document to review is as easy as dragging and dropping, and we'll see a new entry added to the top of our list of documents needing review. We can open a document by clicking on it. And now you'll see what we call our reconciliation user interface, which is designed to make it very efficient to review all the data that was found and extracted from the Accord PDF. Here we use red to indicate problem areas that must be reviewed and orange to indicate areas that can optionally be reviewed because they don't have high confidence. You can work in either of two ways. You can click on a field in the document itself. That will take you both zoom into that field in the document and then also to the data that was extracted. You can see that this data was properly extracted, but we can still confirm the value so that the count of fields needing to be potentially reviewed is reduced by 1. If we want to just focus on the fields that are red, we can click on those either, again, in the document or in the left-hand side. Here we can see the address has a problem, missing a space between the street name and the word street. So when we put that space in there, the address validation automatically determines the field is now valid and the red badge is removed. We'll take care of one more required field on the rating information screen. This time we'll click on the field itself. The document will automatically be zoomed in to the area where the data was extracted from. And here we can see that there's 4 possible class codes that match the 8810 value that was found on the document. And so the system is making the user pick the matching class code. We can see that this is in fact the clerical office employees class code, so we'll go ahead and select that. Now we have corrected all of the red fields and there's no more red badges, and the complete review button is enabled so that we can continue the process to get this submission data into PolicyCenter. The last step in the process here, we automatically have used the data from the Accord document to search for a matching agency. We found Armstrong and Company, so we'll select the right producer code. Similarly, we've used the FEIN number from the Accord document to find an existing account. If we didn't find an existing account, we could create a new one, again, using the data in the document, so we don't have to rekey anything. And lastly, we've determined that since this was an Accord 130 document that we recognized, that this is a workers' compensation submission that we want to create in PolicyCenter. So to finish the process and land the data in PolicyCenter, we just click Create Submission. And now we're passing this data to PolicyCenter using the PolicyCenter Cloud APIs. And we will create a brand new submission pre-filled with data from the Accord application.
Over to you, Julie.
Thanks, Larry, for that great demo. I'm Julie. I'm going to talk to you today about Advanced Product Designer, or APD. So you heard this morning in the keynote that we have externalized APD to be its own application on Guidewire Cloud Home. We're excited to bring that to you. It'll help us to serve metadata from the product model to applications beyond PolicyCenter. It's just our first step in this journey. Another really great feature that we've worked on in Dobson for you in APD is called reference coverage limits. And so this is a really common insurance requirement where you may reduce the available limits of some coverage based on what you've selected on a different coverage. So a good example might be that uninsured motorist limit has to match optional bodily injury limit, or maybe underinsured and uninsured have to match each other. Up until now, APD did not support that relationship building. It does now. It's something we built on. We built sub-coverages in Cortina and built on that in Dobson to build this feature. And finally, one of my favorite features in Dobson for APD is variations by jurisdiction. This allows you to leverage a giant base product, a full base product, and really tweak it to match regulations in a state or a country. Just to let you know, jurisdiction is not really just state or just country. It actually can be a group of states or all of countries. And they're managed independently, allows you to collaborate with your users better. It also makes for better traceability and audits. So yeah. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, of course, it's zero downtime when you do these jurisdiction variations, which is the really great part about APD. All right, so let's do a quick demo here. I think I'll start with a mind map that I've been working on recently. I'm going to go ahead and import it into the Advanced Product Designer app on Guidewire Cloud Home. Just like before, you could start with a mind map, a template, or from scratch. I'll start with a mind map. Okay, here it is. Open that up. And you can see the navigation here on the side shows just like the mind map. Open this up and go ahead and look at my coverages. Here's some coverages I have on my line level. Here's some details about this PIP coverage. I think I'll add a new clause term to liability. Go ahead and add an item. I'd like to add a new element as well. I'll just name it a field. Go ahead and save that. Okay, now I'm going to add a new addition. This edition is for California. Enter the name and description and an identifier, which can all be the same thing. And choose my jurisdiction from a selectable list. Okay. Now I'm in the California edition. Whatever I do here applies to California only. So I'll look for that new field that I added, the A field. And I'll change some properties about that field. So it's required for bind, and I'll make a default value of hello. I think I'll make another addition now for the Northeast states. This is to show you how you can multi-select the states that are available for the jurisdictions. Okay, and so now this will apply to all the Northeast states that I've selected. So I'll find my field again. And you can see that the properties that I added for the California edition are not here. So I'm going to add a different default value. And while I'm here, I'm going to add a new field. This new element, or this new field, will automatically go back to the base product. Previously, you would have had to make the change there. Here it is in the base edition. Let's switch over to a different feature now. Here we're going to talk about cross-coverage validations. So the business requirement is that uninsured motorists cannot be greater than the liability limit. So reference the coverage, choose liability from the drop-down list, and say OK. The second use case is that underinsured motorist limit must equal uninsured motorist. Again, reference this. This is the minimum value, which is liability limit. And the maximum value, which is uninsured motorist. Thank you very much. And back to you, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, let's move on now to digital and analytics. In Dobson, we've updated several different features in the digital applications. Regulations across different regions and countries vary on how personally identifiable information, also called PII, is handled. This feature adds extra layer of configurability to help meet those requirements. Confirming you have a live person at the other end of a digital portal is increasingly important in this world of automated bots. Google's reCAPTCHA is now available out of the box, ready to be integrated and configured to protect your project against fraud and bot attacks. We also have several improvements in the tooling front. We've updated to the latest version of Jutro, including leveraging Jutro's customer header functionality in the Code and Buy portal. We've improved the automated code generation that reduces both front-end and back-end development efforts. And we've simplified the update process between cloud releases. There are also several exciting developments in analytics. Guidewire in August acquired a leading property risk insights insurtech called HazardHub, which I'm sure you've heard about several times already today. And we've integrated its content into our Smart Loop analytics product for BOP and homeowners line of business targeted to the US and Canadian markets, delivering even more risk assessment information for your underwriters. Our data scientists at Science have released an early access version of their Cyber Model 5, which updates parameters, loss and rating models, and an updated view of risk. In our predictive analytics tool chest, we have added the ability to add deep neural network capabilities, a more intuitive workflow for model building, and have enhanced our bring your own model functionality to support additional Python libraries, as well as initial support for the R statistical programming language. I'd also like to just briefly cover Guidewire's early access program. And Guideware's early access program is an extension of the partnership you already have at Guideware for a specific topic or a specific set of features and functionality that Guideware is bringing out that you want to leverage in what you're doing. And that's the obvious advantage, meaning you get first mover advantage on what's coming out. Maybe it's going to be it's an alignment with a business strategy or project you already have in place. You want to be first there to get an advantage on your competition, to have it out there first, to take advantage of it first, to get an advantage of it. It benefits both of us because we get to have that communication with you and validate, is it delivering the business value that we're both expecting from this? Is there something we should do that's going to deliver more business value or achieve the business value that we both set out to accomplish to begin with? Also, does this new feature functionality, does it meet the market needs? Because property and casualty, while it's worldwide, it is regional, it is line of business specific, it is your business process specific and things like that. And we want to make sure that this is broadly applicable and that it'll fit many of our customers' needs, and you can help us validate that. As I said, it's an extension of our existing partnership. We do need to sort of get into alignment in that on the expectations on both sides, meaning is this a fit for what you want to do? Is this a fit for what we want to do? Does the feature functionality going to deliver what you want and things like that? So it's a bit of a conversation between you and us to understand that alignment. Also, it is involve a little bit more effort on both of our parts, meaning we need to talk with you more frequently, and you need to provide feedback to us more frequently on this as we iterate across in the development cycle. So it is an extension of the partnership. It isn't just in PolicyCenter. It is across the board. It is in ClaimCenter. It is in analytics. It is in the other areas of Guideware. Obviously, we're here talking about PolicyCenter. We talked about several things today that are early access, or if you hear things that we're talking about in Elysian and beyond that's early access, and you want to be involved, please contact your Guideware representative to learn more and possibly get attention to the right person. Or you can contact any of us on the stage, and we can help connect you up with the right party there if you're interested. So, we've talked about Dobson. Dobson's coming out next week. The question's going to be, well, okay, that's nice. What you doing next, right? And so let's talk a little bit about that. One of the obvious things is we talked about several things that are early access, and we want to make them broadly available. We want to make them GA or generally available, and that's, of course, based on feedback from existing customers that are in that early access program, the early adopter feedback. Candidates for this include Integration Gateway, Submission Intake, and the Rating Runtime Service. Over and above that, submission intake, how to take it to the next level, things we're looking at are sort of top of our list is improving class code matching, account searching, multiple policy submissions, and ingestion of carrier loss run data. For quoting, we want to extend the work we have already started. For the quoting service, we're looking at introducing availability rules service, as well as providing data and event messaging feeds directly from the quote service. We're also exploring areas of quote pre-processing, where additional data and logic can be applied to create a valid quote from an incomplete quote request. For rating, we are exploring options for additional rate design flexibility while improving the ability to provide premium amounts and premium options more quickly. Advanced Product Designer is becoming the insurance product design platform for all of Guidewire applications. Over the next few releases, our main goals are to enable all lines of business across all regions and to equip other applications outside of PolicyCenter, such as ClaimCenter and the Jutro web applications. With data and analytics, we're looking to expand the embedded analytics smart loop library by lob and region to more broadly provide these capabilities. Thank you very much for your attendance. We greatly appreciate your time.